Are you ready to plan your best garden yet? Now is the perfect time to make some plans. In this video, I'm going to show you how to decide what to grow and how much for a family of 7. I'm going to walk you through our garden plot as an example, and then I'm going to share with you some of the mistakes I've made over the years to hopefully keep you from making the same. We'll wrap up with my favorite garden wins.
Real quick, I wanted to walk you through how I go about deciding the numbers. I know that's something some people wonder about. How do I know how much of something to grow for a year and so forth? One of the best resources I have found to help me with that is the Family Garden Plan by Melissa K. Norris. She has lots of worksheets in there and numbers that she's researched. It's very thorough and well done. In her book, she also includes seed starting tips, organic pest problem remedies, things of that nature in her book as well. There'll be an affiliate link in the description at no extra cost to you. I just get a kickback if you purchase through our link. According to Melissa's book, I did work up the numbers of what we need to grow of each thing. And overall, the theme of this year is increasing our crops. So we saw a shortage last year. There was a drought, lots of things running against us, had a baby, these obstacles we had to kind of overcome and saw in the fruit and the harvest of our garden that we're going to be making some adjustments for. So the primary crops we're looking to increase are corn, our pinto bean crop, and our potatoes. That's red, gold, and sweet that we prefer to raise here on our farm. Something I'm going to be trying with our gold and red potatoes is staggering and succession planting. So the potato bugs are hot and heavy in that early summer, and I'm hoping by succession planting we can maximize the space in our garden while also not having our entire potato crop attacked by bugs all at the same time. Ideally, if your soil is in the right conditions with the right amount of nutrients, you actually shouldn't see much of a pest problem. But I think many of us don't have those ideal conditions, even though we're working towards it. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this fits into the garden, but I'm hoping with the expansion and taking corn from the main portion of the garden to the expansion, I'm hoping it'll open up the space we need to fit some of these other crops in. Something I pay attention to when I plan my garden is companion planting, and Melissa Norris also has a portion in her book dedicated to plants that can be friendly with each other and plants that should be kept separate. And so as I start placing things on my garden plan where I want them to be, I'm always consulting that chart and making adjustments as necessary. The longer you garden, the more you get a feel of what needs to be put far apart, the more you remember. But at the same time, when you're only looking at that once a year, it can be easy to forget. Something that's important to me is every year I have a record of the previous year's garden. So this was last year's garden, 2024, the layout, where we had things. This helps me because when we do practice crop rotation, I know, okay, so we had these things here, here, and here. They need to be moved around. So I am really excited to try eggplant this year. It's a new to us crop. I try to incorporate something new about every year. I don't want to do too much at once. So eggplant and then loofah. I am getting some loofah seeds, and it's the buzz thing I see among homesteaders right now is making your own loofah sponges and scrubbies, and how sustainable they are and how sturdy they are too, that they last a long time. And that's something I need more of around here. So I'm really excited to try both of those out. We need some more diversity in our eating in the winter time. And so I'm hoping eggplant will be that ticket, because we're also increasing corn and okra. Those will also provide some diversity to our winter eating as well. How do you decide what to grow? So naturally, there are some things that are more difficult. I wouldn't recommend anyone start with brassicas right off the bat unless you are going to be raising a small enough amount that you can get on top of cabbage moths and you can invest in some row covers. There's things that are just going to be more difficult for you your first year. I would familiarize yourself with the area, talk to some people who've been gardening for years, figure out what grows well, figure out what the common pest problems are in your area, and plan accordingly. I think green beans are fairly easy for beginners, as well as lettuce, beets. I found radishes to be fairly simple as well to grow. Some things I have encountered issues with are tomatoes and peppers and okra. I've had growing issues with those in the past, and I don't pretend to have it figured out yet, but by rotating our crops around, I do know that that's helping. I have my work cut out for me.
Okay, so I'm out here with our garden plot right now, and I wanted to just kind of walk you through our plans for this year, some of the mistakes we've made in the past, and how we're hoping to mitigate that this coming growing season. So over here, we are totally shifting things around. I'm changing things up
and we're going to have all our corn, instead of it being over here, it's actually going to be over here in our expansion area. This is where we had pigs for several weeks. You can't really see it under all the snow, but we planted a cover crop in there, and this is going to be perfect ground to expand our garden this year. So over here we're going to have all our corn. We're going to have pinto beans to climb the corn just like we did last year, and I'm also going to have some melons on the end to kind of vine within there and grow. This will also, I hope, keep them far enough away from my other squash. So the rest of the squash is going to be on that side of the garden, far away from the melons, so that hopefully we don't have any cross-pollination issues. So another thing I wanted to share in this video is kind of the mistakes we've made in the past and how we're hoping to mitigate that in the future. So one of the mistakes we made earlier on was going too big too fast. And we have a massive garden plot here, and we went really big, and for our first year that was fine. I had a toddler and 2 younger children, and it was fine. We were able to manage it, stay on top of it. But then the next year we expanded even more. And any year which we've had a baby has been harder to manage. You don't get ahead of the weeds on time, and you can't tend to some crops, maybe thin them out as properly. Those were some issues we had last year. I'm hoping to stay on top of it this year by just getting outside more. Now that we don't have a baby, that should not tie me down to the house as much, and I should be able to come out here more easily. Another mistake we've made in the past is not getting on top of pests soon enough. So I've talked about the weed pressure and staying on top of that, and we mulch in the spring and all those things, and they help. They make a huge difference. But staying on top of pests is a whole other thing you have to get on top of. Squash bugs, Mexican bean beetles, they will just ravage your squash. They will ravage your cucumbers and your green beans, and they're terrible. However, if you are on top of it and you catch them soon enough, they won't be as big of a deal. I am going to be petitioning my kids' help to stay on top of those. Potato bugs are another one that are not fun to deal with. They will just totally chew down your potato plant and lessen your harvest. Those are another bug that if you just get on top of it right away, it won't be an issue. So one final mistake I know we've made in the past is we haven't thought about what all will be ready to harvest at the same time. So if you're going to be making something like salsa, and you want to can that, you need to make sure that all your ingredients for salsa are ready at the right time. Our tomatoes are really strong and ripening in August. That's usually when the onions and garlic are ready. If you like plant the spring bulbs. My cilantro tends to bolt before I get around to salsa making. And usually it has restarted, but it's not big enough to harvest yet. So keep in mind those kinds of things as you're planning out your garden. When are they going to be ready? And can you set aside time in that month to deal with it? Because this stuff adds up. When everything is ripening all at once, the preservation season is intense and wild. There's so much to be done. You need to make sure you have time set aside to handle it and the resources ready to go to preserve what you need to preserve. So we talked about our garden plans, some of the things that are new to us, some crops we're trying to increase, and we talked about a lot of the mistakes we've made early on as new gardeners. So now I want to talk to you guys about some of the garden wins we've experienced, because gardening isn't all hardship. It's also a lot of fun. So some of our favorite parts of the gardening season are getting to be out there as a family. So this looks like planting. Planting day is usually a big deal around here where everyone pitches in. Mulching day is another where we just recruit all the helpers to come help us and get the ground covered once we've put in our plants. Some of our other favorite parts about gardening are the healthy snacks that are readily available to my kids, as well as just that personal satisfaction of eating something you raised yourself, you put the effort into, especially for things like tomatoes. I started all my tomatoes last year from seed, and it was so satisfying to take that tomato plant from a seed to a seedling to being in the garden to raising tomatoes and then taking those tomatoes and making salsa for our family. It's like I was part of the process from start to finish. It's so satisfying, and it's such a good feeling when you sit down for your meal to see everything that came from your land. Every year we're looking to improve our garden soil, and crop rotation is a huge part of that, as well as using our compost that we make here on our property, using things like chicken manure and the scraps from the garden. We just further break down leaves, things like that. It gets put right back into our soil to help provide a better harvest next year. As I was prepping for this video, I saw someone have a quote saying that a lot of snow means a good garden year is coming. So right now, thanks to Blair, we received about 6 to 8 inches of snow. We got more snow coming tonight. And this snow apparently brings nitrogen from the atmosphere. And supposedly this will help it be a really good growing season in 2025. And I hope that's true. We want to know what you're excited to grow in 2025. Will this year be your first garden? What questions do you have? Let us know in the comments. We can't wait to cheer you on from afar. We also can't wait for it to be sunny again so we can get out in the garden with our family.